Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak podcast. Good morning. It's Wednesday, the 8th of October. I'm Caroline Hepker in London.
And I'm Stephen Carroll in Paris. Coming up today, the price of gold smashes through $4,000 an ounce for the first time as US government shutdown fears fuel the safe haven rally.
With just hours to go until Emmanuel Macron's self-imposed deadline, French opposition parties show little appetite for a deal.
Plus, scoring big, Ronaldo becomes the world's first football billionaire following a huge Saudi deal.
Let's start with a roundup of our top stories.
The price of gold has topped $4,000 an ounce for the first time in history as concerns over the US economy and the government shutdown added fresh momentum to a scorching rally. Uncertainties over global trade, geopolitical tensions, concerns about Fed independence and a move away from the dollar have also helped to fuel the rise in bullion, which traded at less than half its current value just 2 years ago. Angelina Lai, Chief Investment Officer for Asia and the Middle East at St. James's Place.
What we are really seeing is a flight to safety. We tend to talk about gold as a forward indicator for the fear and greed index, actually, because there is no cash flow attached to gold. And for an organization such as us that believes in valuation and fundamentals as the basis, it's extremely difficult to value something like a gold which does not have cash flows attached to it.
That's Angela Lai speaking there. Jumps in the price of gold typically track broader economic and political stress. The metal climbed above $1,000 an ounce in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, $2,000 during the COVID pandemic, and $3,000 as the Trump administration's tariff plans rippled through global markets in March.
Now, in France, there are just hours to go until Emmanuel Macron's deadline for parties to agree to work together on a budget. Opposition parties are making demands, including their choice for Prime Minister, fresh elections, and in some cases, the President's own resignation. The outgoing Prime Minister, Sébastien Lecornu, will continue meetings with political leaders today. Olivier Faure of the Socialist Party told France 2 television that their party wants the Prime Minister from their ranks and not new elections.
I want the left to govern. I don't just want to be obsessed with what now also obsesses the right, that is, the presidential election, as if there were nothing else. And the French people who see this shadow play, this street theater day after day, are saying to themselves, are you finally going to talk about us?
Socialist Party leader Olivier Faure speaking there via a translator. President Macron gave Sébastien Lecornu until this evening to form an agreement with other parties. The left and the centre-right have ruled out joining forces in a unity cabinet, but sources have told Bloomberg that the Republican Party might be willing to refrain from toppling a socialist-led government if the far left is kept out of power.
Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup XAI is increasing its ongoing funding round to $20 billion in the latest leg of the AI spending boom. Bloomberg has learned that XAI is accessing more financing than initially planned, including $2 billion from Nvidia to finance chips for its Colossus 2 project. It comes despite billionaire Elon Musk posting on X in September that he was not raising any capital right now. The massive financing is just the latest for the tech sector this year, something JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon compared to the dot-com bubble.
It's a lot. I'm not sure it's all ever going to be totally spent. I think when you look at big tech, like tech that happens like this, and you go look at cars, you look at television, you look at internet, big money's got spent. There were a lot of losers, a lot of winners. In total, it was productive. So even take the internet bubble. Remember that blew up, and the amount of people. You and I can probably name 100 companies that were worth $50 billion and disappeared. But out of it came Facebook, YouTube, Google. So there will be some real big companies, real big success. It will work, in spite of the fact that not everyone who invests in it is going to have a great investment return.
Jamie Dimon was speaking to Bloomberg at JP Morgan's TechStars conference. Despite the optimism, many are looking at the trillions of dollars pledged to AI infrastructure and asking if relationships are too circular. Today's Bloomberg Big Take looks at the AI race, with one analyst telling them Sam Altman has the power to crash the global economy for a decade or take us all to the promised land.
Now, teams from the US, Qatar and Israel are set to gather in Egypt for final negotiations to end the war in Gaza. Bloomberg understands that officials, including close Netanyahu advisor Ron Dermer and US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, are expected to take part in negotiations. Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid says he's hoping for an end to the conflict.
A war that is going nowhere, hostages that are slowly dying, and of course the suffering Gaza that everybody in his right mind cares about. Children should not die in grown-ups wars. So for everybody's sake, we pray for this to end.
Yair Lapid there speaking to Sky News. Hamas spokesperson Fawzi Bahroum said a permanent ceasefire and withdrawal of Israeli troops must be central to a deal during a televised address on Qatar-based broadcaster Al Jazeera. Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner are also expected to attend those talks.
The gap between the wealthy and the average British worker is too large even for a lifetime of savings to bridge. The Resolution Foundation think tank found a typical full-time employee would need to set aside around 52 years' worth of pay to reach the top 10%. Bloomberg's James Wilcock has more.
If you work hard, can you get ahead? The Resolution Foundation say the answer is clear: not anymore. Their research says in Britain, since 2008, if you owned wealth, you saw far more gains than from a paycheck. They add the intergenerational wealth gap between people in their 30s and people in their 60s has doubled in that time period. Taxing that wealth has become a political issue, with those on the left pushing Chancellor Rachel Reeves to do more to balance the scales. In London, James Wilcock, Bloomberg Radio.
And those are our top stories for you this morning. Looking at the markets, spot gold is now trading up 1% again this morning, $4,026. Stocks, though, seeing more declines from record highs, it must be said. MSCI Asia Pacific Index is down 0.6%. Stock futures for Europe are also just flat this morning. S&P 500 E-mini futures edging upwards 0.1%. Ray Dalio saying the stock market feels frothy. Mainland China and South Korean markets closed for holidays today. The Kiwi has dropped. We had a 50 basis point RBNZ rate cut. 10-year Treasury yields are also steady this morning, trading at 4.12%. Those are the markets.
In a moment, we'll bring you more on gold's glittering run, plus where next for Emmanuel Macron, and some reporting from our Portugal bureau chief that you won't want to miss. But another story we've been reading this morning, I don't know how much time you've spent analysing or parsing Taylor Swift's new album, but you'd be pleased to know that Jason Bailey from Bloomberg Opinion has been on the case as well. He's been looking a bit at the numbers, which are very positive about the album drop as well, but also the mixed reviews. So positive from some legacy publications, but some mixed reception online as well, which is an interesting phenomenon because of the incredibly, I don't know if vociferous is the word, support of Taylor Swift that you can find almost everywhere on the internet, and also the risks of saying anything bad about Taylor Swift and the potential for being cancelled as a result.
She's a billionaire. She's just come off the Smash Eras tour. She's got her own music catalogue back, just got engaged. Obviously, you know, she's powering ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, and lots going on and plenty of opinions to be shared, apparently, about it. So Jason's been digging into sort of the release strategy and whether it was right to put the whole album out at the same time with the video for The Fate of Ophelia and the launch watch party as well.
Yes.
Maybe perhaps there was it wasn't the traditional playbook for how, big new releases are done now. Of course, Taylor Swift, as we know, forges her own path in so many things. So great read this morning, bloomberg.com/opinion, and we'll put a link to it in our podcast show notes.
Okay, well, let's think about what's happening in the markets. The spot price of gold smashing through $4,000 an ounce for the very first time ever. That is a jump of more than 50% this year. Bloomberg's Markets Live strategist Mark Cranfield joins us now for more on this. Mark, come on, there are so many superlatives about this. Put it into context. How much has gold rallied?
Yeah, I think one of the exciting things, apart from, as you say, that 50% jump, is the speed with which it recovered the last $1,000 in price. So between 3,000 to 4,000, it did that in around 7 months, which is by far the quickest of the various stages of rally that gold has had over its life. That is certainly the quickest it's covered the price of $1,000. So very impressive, much quicker than it was between 2,000 and 3,000, for example. So just around a 7-month rally, and you would have earned around $1,000 if you'd have been involved in gold at that time. So that's something to take into account. Although you would have done even better if you'd have been in silver. That's rallied about 60% this year.
Interesting. Why? I mean, is the short question. Why have we gotten to this stage?
It's a lot to do with what other currencies are doing or not doing, and also the geopolitics. Several things have fallen into place that support gold at the moment. So I think you must never forget, though people will describe gold as a metal, it's really a currency because it is exchangeable. You can actually take a gold coin and you can get cash for it at any time. And so what we have at the moment is a situation where the euro has a French problem, so it's not so popular. The yen, as you know, has been extremely weak. I'm sure you've been talking about that a lot as well, and it just got weaker with this potential new female prime minister coming in. The pound is a bit underwhelming as well. It's got its own issues. So there are several major currencies. New Zealand currency is getting battered today with the rate cut. So within the G10 space, the competitors to gold are not having a great time. Even the dollar is losing it's still the largest currency by reserve managers, but that share is falling, so even the dollar is being undermined a bit. So all of that supports reasons for being in gold. Then you have the general geopolitical situation, which to a lot of investors looks more unstable this year than it has for many, many years. Again, that's a positive for gold. And the low interest rate environment is another thing as well. Gold generally does well when interest rates are on a downtrend in major countries. So all of those things put gold in a good position. It may well have got out of control. It may be there's too much speculation in the very short term. It's gone too far. But certainly there are tangible reasons why you can see gold is being seen as a very good haven in this environment.
Yeah, I mean, and at times of stress, that is often the case. But as you point out, where does it go from here? And there are lots of views. I mean, from Bridgewater's Ray Dalio to Citadel's Ken Griffin, the Goldman Sachs forecast for the end of next year. There are lots of views on the trajectory.
The biggest risk to it in the near term is that it's become another momentum play, something like tech stocks in America and around the world. So if you look at what macro traders are doing at the moment, some of their biggest positions are likely to be long of AI themes, long of gold. They probably were short US dollar. That's starting to reverse a bit now. And so those kind of positions have probably got very large, and when they turn, they're probably going to turn together. So if we see a sharp correction, let's say this earnings season is not as good as expected in the United States, the one that's just started, we get a turn in the stock market there, you will probably see that gold will follow, because people who have similar positions will need to make up P&L losses because of what's happening in a different asset class. So that's the biggest risk to gold in the short term. The factors like geopolitical risk, that's probably not going to go away in the short term. Other currencies would need to prove themselves to be a lot better to get people to give up their gold to. So if there's a sudden dramatic change in Europe where France looks a lot better place, Europe's getting its act together, and suddenly the euro is very strong, that would hurt gold as well.
Very interesting. Yeah, the risks and rewards. Mark Cranfield, thanks for being with us, Bloomberg's Markets Live strategist.
Well, we're counting down to the next political deadline here in France as outgoing Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu tries to build support for his budget plans. President Macron has given him until this evening to make progress. Our managing editor for European Economics and Government, Ben Sills, joins us now for more. Ben, good morning. Sébastien Lecornu meeting the Socialist Party leadership today. Are they the key to his success in this mission?
Yeah, they really are. The way the kind of complicated mathematics of the French Parliament works out, Macron's weak centrist group has got a relatively, and I use that word advisedly, a relatively stable alliance with the centre-right Republicans. They have got the far-right National Rally of Marine Le Pen in fairly entrenched opposition, and the key to forming a majority is to persuade the socialists to break away from the far-left group and join a kind of centrist alliance. But so far they've failed to do it.
Well, some parties are already preparing for National Assembly elections. How likely do you think that is at this point?
It's pretty likely. The basic situation is that none of the options look good for Macron. To get the socialists on board, he's almost certainly going to have to compromise on some key elements of his platform, whether that means raising taxes or rolling back his pension reform, something like that, which would be a major retreat for Macron. But if he doesn't do that, calling an election for the parliament, it risks making things worse for him. The National Rally is most likely to gain in that situation, but he's really kind of running out of options to try and find other people who can put together a functioning government, just because the parliamentary maths is so complicated.
Some of Macron's close allies also appear to be keen to distance themselves from the president. You mentioned the pension reforms there. It's been hugely controversial. And another former Prime Minister, Elizabeth Borne, coming out saying that she's in favour of suspending the pension reforms now, which is a certain change in her position from when she was in the Macron, when she was Prime Minister. She's still a minister in the outgoing cabinet now. Does all of this add to the sense that Macron really is a lame duck president now, even though he has 18 months left on his term?
By any standard measure, Macron is definitely a lame duck, and he probably has been for a year or so now, since the parliamentary elections last summer, which triggered this gridlock. That said, Macron is an exceptional politician, and he has been extremely active and quite effective on the international stage over the last year or so, particularly the last 7 or 8 months since Trump returned to power. He's got a relationship with Donald Trump. Relationships with Donald Trump are one of the fundamental assets in the world in which we live. And so he's been effective, but his ability to shape domestic politics is extremely limited, and he's extremely unpopular. So we're very much kind of in the countdown, the final chapter of the Macron presidency, that's for sure.
OK, Ben, it's a very interesting moment then in French politics. Ben Sills, our managing editor for European economy and government. Thank you. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Daybreak Europe coming up after this. Now, prolific goal scorer Cristiano Ronaldo has done something no other footballer has managed. He has become a billionaire, according to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, thanks to a new playing contract with Saudi Arabia's Al Nassr. A little earlier, I spoke to our Portugal bureau chief, Sofia Horta e Costa, and I began by talking to her about Ronaldo's enormous success on and off the pitch during a glittering career of more than 20 years and how he came to become football's first billionaire player.
Yes, hugely successful on the pitch. I mean, he has played for Europe's biggest teams, most famously Manchester United. He was very happy there. He made his name there, worked very closely with Sir Alex Ferguson, and then his record transfer to Real Madrid. It was one of the biggest transfers in history at the time. And then to Juventus, so a big Italian team. But I'm sitting here in Portugal, and, just for the national team, he's been incredibly important. He's still the captain at 40 years old, which is an incredible achievement. He's scoring in every single game that Portugal has played recently in qualifications for the World Cup in the US. So he's still very much at the top of his game. He's not won a World Cup. I think that kind of hurts him a little bit. He did win the Euros in 2016 for Portugal. But if we're talking about competition with Messi, that's one where the Argentinian player has won up on Cristiano Ronaldo, but an incredibly successful football player, the biggest goal scorer of all time amongst male football players.
Yeah, incredible. And so, how has all of that footballing success vaulted him well into billionaire status now?
So it's very unusual and quite remarkable the way he's done this, because unlike most athletes who get the bulk of their wealth from endorsements or, in the case of tennis star Roger Federer, it came from a stake in the footwear company On. In Ronaldo's case, it's the bulk of his earnings have come from actually playing football. And actually the majority of that came with his move to Saudi Arabia, which at the time, a lot of people were criticizing that decision because, he was going from Manchester United and playing at really top level football to a very unknown league, and even in Saudi Arabia, it wasn't the most successful team. But it's actually, in the past 2 years since he's moved there, he's really, really kind of shown what a player at the twilight of his career can do in terms of, gaining earnings. So it's really catapulted him into the top ranks of the richest sports people. And he's now just renewed his contract in June, and we're hearing it's worth about $400 million, which really kind of just redefines what you can do as a sports player.
Yeah, absolutely. Net worth estimated in total for Ronaldo, $1.4 billion. Look, we know there's pay inflation in the world of football. Obviously, my fellow Brits, usually pretty obsessed with football and talk a lot about pay inflation. And so he's not the only super wealthy football star.
He's not. And I'm going to start with Messi because everyone just likes comparing the two. And obviously we're trying to figure out whether Messi is also a billionaire. In terms of football earnings, Ronaldo is still earning more than Messi, but playing in the American League has been very fruitful for Messi as well. He does also have a contract with Apple, a revenue sharing deal. We don't know how much that's worth, so that could be quite significant for his wealth. But the Saudi League, the American soccer, I think we can call it soccer if we're talking about the US, it really has shown what footballers who, maybe they won everything they could have done in Europe, and now it's time to really kind of just play in a different league, but really make money for what they do. Obviously, Beckham, we're talking about one of the most marketable footballers in history. He's done quite a lot for himself. But again, most of that was sponsorship and using his image, his marketing prowess for his earnings. And as you said, pay inflation has really changed since Beckham was playing. But Ronaldo is quite unique in that sense.
Yeah, and of course the football/soccer audience is a global one, isn't it? What do you think Ronaldo might do next? This is the fascinating question as we cover the growing business of sport. Is it going to be investments or some other line of business like we see other US sporting stars do?
Yeah, so when he's asked what will he do when he retires, he gets quite irritated at that question because he says, I'm not retiring yet. I'm still playing. I'm still playing at the top of my game. I'm still a football player. But obviously a lot of interest in around what he will do. The Brazilian Ronaldo, the other Ronaldo, he owns a Spanish football team. Some people think that Cristiano Ronaldo might follow the same playbook. He has said that he would like to own not one, but many football clubs after he retires. He does have a very strong relationship with a wealth manager based here in Portugal. So the thinking is maybe there'll be a family office structure. He has shown a preference to invest in his home country, but so far they've been just small businesses, like paddle, tennis courts, and ceramics maker. He does have a hotel interest here as well. There will be a lot of interest though. Will he do, he just recently launched a YouTube channel. Is he going to move into that kind of media like Gary Lineker did with his podcasting business, Goalhanger Sports, that has been incredibly profitable for him? A lot of questions, but Ronaldo still very much says that he's a footballer first, and he can speak about what comes next once he does retire.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.